Hello, welcome to the Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Doc Allen. I'd like to start by thanking you for giving this show a try. This will very much be a work in progress, so please bear with me. Please do me a big favor, click subscribe, and give a thumbs up if you're feeling kind. I just launched a brand new Twitter account, so if you could, please follow me at Doc Allen DWS. Also, check out our website, thewrestlingsite.com. We have hundreds of reviews, mostly about pro wrestling, that go back for about 15 years, but includes quite a bit of classic content. If you head to the site right now, our featured review is Coliseum Video Presents The Best of the WWF Volume 6. In this review, Scrooge McSuck takes a look at some of the best matches of 1985 and 1986. Scrooge does a really nice job covering the classic WWF content, so give it a look. You might learn something, and you'll probably have a laugh or two. On that subject, if you would like to write your own reviews for the wrestling site, please send me a direct message on Twitter. So remember, that's Doc Allen, DWS. Or join the forums at the wrestling site and create an account. And you can just directly send your reviews via direct message to our admin, Eric Von Eric. So if you join and you have something you'd like to submit, if you just type in Eric_Von_Eric, he'll get the message. And chances are he'll be happy to take it. We just ask that you somewhat proofread your reviews and stay away from explicit content and anything hateful, homophobic, or general bigotry. All right. So today we're going to be covering last night's edition of AEW Dynamite from December 8th, 2021. This was the Dynamite that from the UBS Arena in Long Island, New York, that created quite a bit of a stir because WWE was in the same arena about, I think it was last week, and WWE sold somewhere in the ballpark of 5,000 tickets to this event, and then AEW sold somewhere in the ballpark of 9,500. So it's a pretty noteworthy story that when the two promotions can go head-to-head, such as it is, that AEW can sell more tickets, especially in an area that historically is a stronghold for WWE. So before I start the review, I just want to remind you that star ratings are subjective. My ratings consider many factors, including match structure, execution, crowd involvement, what narrative is being told, and then simply just how much I enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. I tend to find that my star ratings aren't all that extremely different from what kind of the general consensus is. Sometimes I'm surprised, but I like to think I'm pretty fair. But if you disagree, please let me know. Right now we have 0 live viewers, and that's okay. I figured as much as we're getting started. Anywho, so let's get on to Dynamite. So again, this was AEW Dynamite from the UBS Arena in Long Island. Commentators were Tony Schiavone, Excalibur, and Taz. I found that Taz kind of started off this broadcast seeming kind of more professional than we usually hear him. He kind of gets relaxed when he's doing commentary on Dark. And I thought as the show went on, he kind of fell into his more easygoing persona, but he stayed in character at the right times, especially during the Battle Royal when Dante Martin stabbed Team Taz in the back. We'll get to that in a minute. So the first segment was CM Punk coming out to MJF's music. So first, MJF's music hits. Crowd gives him a pretty mixed reaction. I'd been waiting all week to see if MJF would be the popular hometown heel like Brett in Canada, or if even the hometown fans were going to give him a hard time. And it was a little more mixed, at least to start. However, when the fans realized that it was CM Punk and not MJF, they booed Punk. So this is happy CM Punk, who's been getting a hero's welcome at every arena AEW has visited. And Punk's getting booed for the first time. So Punk really leaned into this. He mocked the crowd with, "That's all you got? Chicago is louder." And then, he picked on the Islanders hockey team, who I guess have yet to win a game in that arena. So Punk removes his jacket, reveals that he's wearing a 4 Pillars of AEW shirt. And in case you don't know, that's the t-shirt that has Jungle Boy, MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Darby Allin as kind of like the pillars. And Punk picked on MJF for making an incel comment about how Punk is only putting over Britt Baker as the pillar that should replace MJF because he's trying to get into her pants. Punk asks the crowd, "So is MJF really your guy?" And if so, he calls the crowd cowards and chicken bleep for supporting a guy like MJF who's been ducking him. And Punk, very tongue-in-cheek delivery. He walks a fine line between cutting a promo that makes him a heel in front of this audience only without turning him heel in front of the general crowd. Punk talks about the Danielson Hangman Page match coming up, says he wants next, and tries to lure MJF into a match with him by kind of dangling hey, whoever wins between us can be the number 1 contender sort of deal. So Punk leaves without getting an answer. And I have to say, this was a really entertaining promo. I think for the people who have been impatient recently that Punk is giving the same, "Oh, I'm so happy and excited to be back, and every night's just a party." I think this throws some red meat at those fans who've been waiting for Punk to have a feud that he can really sink his teeth into. This is followed up with a pretty professional-looking video package for MJF. He steps out of a fancy car, struts into a football field, while the movie voiceover voice lists off his accomplishments, and which becomes more comedic as it goes on. MJF enters the arena for the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal, and featuring a bunch of different mid-carders, several members of Team Taz, and a few members of the Hardy family office, or maybe just Hardy. Anywho, so to make a long story short, the co-winners of the Battle Royal are MJF and Dante Martin in 8 minutes and 28 seconds. Highlights include MJF sacrificing Wardlow to eliminate him and Lee Johnson at the same time. The other highlight was towards the end, it looked like MJF was going to be alone against Team Taz members Dante Martin and Ricky Starks, but Martin ended up tossing Starks and removing his FTW armband and tossing it down. And that just sent Taz into a fury. So going forward, Dante Martin is out of Team Taz. It's unclear yet if this means that he and Lio Rush are still on the same page or back together. Rush was eliminated pretty early in this match and didn't really seem to factor in much against Martin before that. So this was mostly a run-of-the-mill battle royal. I got some points for advancing numerous story threads. I gave it 2 stars and a quarter. I would have liked to see a little more from some of the emerging acts or acts who are new to the company. Like Jay Lethal was in this, and he didn't do much. Lee Moriarty was in this, and he was unceremoniously tossed out very early. But so kind of an average battle royal, but one that did accomplish some good story advancement. Up next, MJF seemed to be absorbed by or taking in the crowd support, and he offered a friendly handshake to Martin. It was going to leave without any sort of incident, but then Ricky Starks started beating up Martin. MJF did that thing where he's like, oh, should I help? No. Oh, should I help? No. So then MJF finally charges the ring, gets right in the Starks' face, and then turns around and starts putting the boots to Martin anyway. This brought back CM Punk for the save. Martin gave Starks an enziguri, and Punk hit the go to sleep on Starks while MJF slips away. And that kind of ended the Punk MJF show for the night. Up next, we had Jurassic Express with Christian Cage and the Varsity Blondes with Julia Hart against 2.0 with Daniel Garcia and the Acclaimed. And Jurassic Express and Varsity Blondes win in 8 minutes, 54 seconds. This was a fun match. It stuck to the classic tag team formula. They did not cut the commercial during it. Normally the opening match gets the full no commercial spot, but tonight they saved it for the second match, which was a nice surprise. When the heels started to get their heat, I instinctively, as I'm typing my review, start typing down and they're about to cut the commercial, or we're going to picture in picture, and it never came. So that was kind of surprised me. Small little touch, but Anyway, fun match, 3 stars. Next, I forgot to mention that Eddie Kingston neutralized Daniel Garcia's interference during the match. Afterwards, Ortiz showed up to calm Kingston down, and they got ambushed by 2.0 and Garcia, setting up a logical match for Rampage or some other time. Next up, Tully Blanchard and FTR talk to the camera. They're going to be getting their next shot at Lucha Brothers on Rampage. So that's happening pretty quickly. I can't help but wonder if this is in response to Rampage pulling some pretty low numbers lately. And there's been a lot of speculation about what is a fair rating for Rampage, or the current numbers, which have been hovering below 500,000. Are those considered to be too low or not? And there's a lot of discourse about, well, if TNT doesn't mind, then who are we to care? But if I start seeing things like AEW tag team title matches being booked for Rampage, that kind of answers the question where they do care about the ratings. And right now they might be a little on the low side. Up next, we had the Young Bucks with Brandon Cutler and Adam Cole against Chaos, New Japan's Chaos, represented by Rocky Romero and Chuck Taylor with Orange Cassidy. And early on, they're having a pretty standard TV match. They go to the Young Bucks working over Brian Pillman Jr. pretty quickly, and things are moving along so much so that I'm thinking, wow, we're going to have another match that ends before a commercial break. I wonder if this is a new thing where we're not going to be going through commercials as much. Maybe it's a response to ratings. Anywho, turned out to not be the case. It just ended up being an extra long match. The Young Bucks end up winning in 15 minutes, 38 seconds. After some really well done false finishes by Taylor and Romero, and I might be conflating this with the other match. Oops. Well, we're live, pal. Anywho, I gotta stop saying anywho. That's not gonna get any support. So they finished with the Bucks finished with the Meltzer driver. This was a classic Bucks match. I wasn't all that interested in this to start, but as the match continued, especially after the commercial break, I really got into it. They created an absorbing story. I was popping for a lot of the false finishes. Brandon Cutler interfered a few times, and Cole and Orange Cassidy got involved. And by the end of it, I was pretty hooked. So 3.5 stars. Afterwards, the beatdown on Chaos continued. Wheeler Yuta ran in to no avail, and the Bucks were about to really put a hurting on Cassidy. They set him up for Adam Cole's Panama Sunrise, and then they were going to give him the BTE trigger. But then Sue pulled in with her SUV and dropped off Trent, who we haven't seen in a while, and apparently has gotten himself into tip-top shape and gotten a haircut. I really enjoyed this more than I should. I was marking out live, and I think the whole deal where, Trent, he's kind of not the flashiest looking performer, but his kind of silly, like, wink wink gimmick of he gets dropped off places by his mom is kind of endearing. So Trent helps clear the ring, and then Sue and Chris Statlander join them for the biggest group hug in wrestling history. This was a lot of fun. If I really wanted to dissect it, I could say, where were they when the Young Bucks and Cole and Cutler were cheating? Well, the match was still in progress as it stands. Best Friends / Chaos get the moral victory at the end, but they drop the match. Up next, Alex Marvez tries to interview Ruby Soho, but as per usual in AEW, the Bunny and Penelope Ford interrupt. They tell Ruby Solo to find partner to face them. Ruby doesn't like this. She tries to fight back. She's jumped by Nyla Rose. And luckily, Tay Conti and Anna Jay chase them away with chairs. So it looks like we have another match for Rampage, and it looks like Ruby won't have a problem finding a partner. Up next, we had Tony Schiavone interviewing Sammy Guevara on the stage. And again, instant interruption, this time by Cody Rhodes, who still has many gross-looking burn wounds all over his arms. Cody puts over that he's a good guy. He didn't want to blindside Sammy, so he's here to tell him face-to-face that he's going to be getting a shot at the TNT title. And they shake hands, and then Cody almost leaves through the heel tunnel before kind of having to remind himself, like, no, I'm a good guy. And then he leaves through the babyface tunnel. And then the second interruption of the segment was Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky in the stands with a hot microphone, demanding or complaining about how they're treated so unfairly. Anybody can walk in and get a title shot from Guevara anytime, but Ethan Page needed help from Dan Lambert to get his shot. And by the way, Dan Lambert's coming back soon. And that was about it. Guevara seemed happy and willing to challenge to put the title up against Scorpio Sky. Up next, we had Jamie Hayter versus Rijo. Rijo wins this one in 13 minutes, 10 seconds. And I was a little disappointed by two things. First, it was a good match. Rijo had a really convincing come-from-behind win. Hayter looked monstrous compared to Rijo and used her size and strength well to her advantage. And, Rijo did a really nice job selling and doing the whole ragdoll routine. One point right before the commercial, Rijo went for a high cross-bodied outside, and Hayter was supposed to catch her. And I don't know if Hayter forgot or wasn't ready, but either way, Rijo kind of bounces off Hayter and hits the ground, and then Hayter scoops her up and slams her into the ring post like what was planned. I wasn't really thinking about this botch a whole lot later. They were able to get my it's a testament to their storytelling that I was able to get into it and not think too much about it after the commercial break. The other disappointing thing was they never really had the crowd with them. There was at one point there was a faint chant for "We Want Brit." I think I picked up on some anti-Rijo chants or some heckling. So not a great night as far as the women's star power, but I still enjoyed the come from behind victory by Rijo, and it's a shame that they didn't have the crowd support. Because a crowd that was really into this could have bumped this up a few notches. As it stands, I'm giving it 2 stars and 3/4. After the match, Britt assaulted Rijo and put her into the lockjaw. Then they ran down the card for Rampage and Winter is Coming and Stop the Presses. You're not going to believe this. Hook is going to wrestle on Rampage. So mark your calendars. Up next was a video promo hyping a grudge match between Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb. This will happen at Winter is Coming. This is a pretty well built up grudge match. They both blame each other for their losses in the TBS Championship tournament. So I appreciate that not only has this tournament given some really good TV slots to the women, but it's also developed a feud that's separate from any championship for that'd be featured on a big show. So you have Shida and Deeb facing each other for not the women's title, not the TBS title, just to settle a score. And this is something that's been missing from AEW for a while, more often than not. Normally, the women's division is just whatever the champion is up to, and then the squash matches or the exhibition matches on the YouTube shows. So I approve of this. Up next, Tony Schiavone interviews Varsity Blondes and Julia Hart on the stage. And what do you know? They get interrupted. This time the lights go out. Malachi Black appears before them. He sprays black mist into Julia's face. Lights go out, and he's gone without a trace. And I guess it was good to see Black on the show. This was a little on the random side because why pick on poor Julia? Last I knew, he's still wrapped up in feuds of Pac and Death Triangle and Cody. So I don't know if this will result in anything further, and this was just a way to get Black on the show, or if we should expect some matches between Black and the Varsity Blondes in the coming weeks. I do like in AEW that people on the roster can sometimes be feuding with more than one person at a time. It keeps things fresh. But it can be a little cluttering and confusing at times too. So then our main event for the evening was Bryan Danielson versus John Silver of the Dark Order. And if you've been paying attention, you know that Danielson is chasing after the world title that currently belongs to Hangman Adam Page. And he's been toying with Page by systematically defeating members of the Dark Order in their hometowns and kicking in their heads. So now John Silver is from Long Island, so he's up to the plate. I felt like Silver got kind of a muted reaction during his entrance, but once the match started, the fans were giving him a Johnny Hungy chant. And on the other side of things, Bryan Danielson got cheered and some yes chants during his entrance, but once the match started, the fans kind of settled into booing him. So I don't know if Bryan's going to be a heel long-term past this deal with Page, but in the meantime, clearly the AEW audiences are willing to cheer or boo him based on what's being given to them. And if Bryan wants to go back to being a babyface when this is all said and done, he won't have a hard time doing so. The match was pretty good. As with all these Dark Order matches, Danielson never really felt like he was in any danger at any point, despite taking a couple really big bumps. He flew into a sit-out powerbomb spot, and I can wince because, Bryan's injury history. And then he ended up taking a German suplex from Silver later on. Silver got beat up pretty well through a commercial break, made his comeback afterwards as per the formula. And then Bryan took over again, and ended up hitting a Gotch-style pile driver and finishing with what looked to me like a modified Rings of Saturn. I could have gotten that wrong. I saw some other people refer to it as a choke, but that's just what I saw. So Bryan wins by submission at 10:47. I thought this was a good match. Silver got some generous late offense, and I never felt like Bryan was in any real trouble, but it's part of a bigger story. Gave it 3 stars. So afterwards, Bryan gloated on the microphone about all the Dark Order heads he's kicked in, but then he realizes he forgot to kick in Silver's head and fixes his mistake by trapping the arms and stomping him in the head. Same spot he's been using in all these matches, like when he knocked out Colt Cabana's tooth. Hangman Page runs in, clears Bryan from the ring, and makes his final threats for Winter is Coming. So overall, I thought the MJF Punk stuff at the beginning felt like a happening. I thought that we got to see the side of Punk that we haven't seen much of so far in his AEW run, and his mic work enhanced MJF. Like, if I was tuning in for the first time and didn't know what was going on, I would think this MJF guy was a really big deal. After that, the spot with Stu bringing Trent back was cute, and the Bryan Danielson Dark Order feud kind of helped bookend the show on both ends. In between that, this did a lot to set up future shows, including a really strong push for Friday's Rampage. So again, I wonder if the Rampage ratings have not been considered acceptable as of late, and this is an effort to make the show seem more like a really important third hour of Dynamite and less like the hey, it's our late night exhibition show. I thought Winter is Coming got set up very nicely here. I'm looking forward to a lot in that event. I must note that the shtick with every interview segment being immediately interrupted definitely felt more tired tonight than it has as of late. AEW may want to consider moving away from that trope for a little while. I'm worried it's going to turn into a punchline for them, and may already have turned into a punchline. Otherwise, there were a lot of really decent, good matches up and down the show. And like I said, it was bookended nicely by the Punk MJF and the Page Danielson feuds. And it's pretty neat that we're at a point right now where AEW can present an episode of Dynamite with no Moxley, no Omega, no Jericho, no Darby Allin and Sting. And the show doesn't feel like it's light on star power at all. So I know people have been, or not people, but some people have been giving AEW a hard time for signing so many guys and girls to the roster. But right now it's working for them, and tonight was a pretty good example of that. So that was Dynamite for the week. Let me know what you thought. You can reach out to me on Twitter. You can leave comments on this video. If you agree, disagree, you want to troll me, that's okay. I'll take it. So right now I am exploring options for what the wrestling show is going to look like moving forward. My current plan is to do Dynamite reviews kind of like this, but hopefully better. This is a work in progress after all. At some point, I might consider picking up WWE shows if there's an audience looking for that. So again, send me a message. Let me know what you want to see covered in terms of pro wrestling. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to share this. There's been some breaking news. Fightful has announced that WWE has released Jeff Hardy. I don't know what the specifics are, other than it is connected to a recent incident where Hardy was sent home from a live event after being pulled from a tag team match midway through. We all know that Hardy has a history of being afflicted by various demons, and whatever he's facing right now, I just hope the best for him. Obviously, it's a hard time of year to be dealing with that sort of thing, and there's been enough tragedies in wrestling, and Jeff seems to take his turns in kind of like a treadmill where he looks like he's heading down that path and then he'll come around, but I really hope things turn out well for him. So I think I'm going to call it quits there. Please, again, do me a big favor and click subscribe and thumbs up if you're feeling kind. Thank you for watching this introduction episode. This was fun, and I look forward to doing this again. And hopefully we can grow some discussions and grow a brand out of this even. So again, go check out the wrestling site. The wrestling site has been around since 2007. So again, we have a lot of reviews there. It's been mainly a few of us posting things as we see fit as a hobby. So you're not going to get like every Raw or every SmackDown ever, but we do have a lot of pay-per-views. We have most episodes of Dynamite. There's a lot of classic content. If you go to the other section, there's a fair amount of like New Japan, Ring of Honor, GCW, Impact Wrestling content. And if you want to join the forums have actually been there since 2004. And right now they're pretty quiet, but there's a lot of history there too. And that's also where you want to go if you decide you want to send your own reviews to Eric Von Erich. So hopefully you'll do that. So thanks again, and wish you all well. Bye.